The Pacers have played a lot of two-man combinations this year of players, but I want to talk about the best ones and a new one that's really standing out, plus how are Tyrese Haliburton and Bennedict Mathurin fitting together early in their NBA careers. We'll talk about all that and so much more on today's Locked On Pacers podcast.
You are Locked On Pacers, your daily Indiana Pacers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in to another edition of the Locked On Pacers podcast, where we, of course, talk about the Indiana Pacers. As always, my name's Tony East. I cover the team for Forbes and SI, and today, random day off in the middle of the season. No game yesterday, no game today. So we get to dive into a fun topic that I like to do every so often, lineup combos. And I promise it's way more interesting than you think just looking at the surface numbers. So today we're going to talk about three lineup duos that have been worth discussing this season. One is, of course, the guys. Bennedict Mathurin and Tyrese Haliburton. What do the numbers say about their pairing together? Who's been playing well alongside them? What does it tell us about how to maximize those two on the court? Plus, what are the best duos for the Pacers this season? And then a new one, Isaiah Jackson and Myles Turner. Why does that work? Why do the Pacers keep turning to that? All of that coming today on Locked On Pacers. Tons to dive into. Thanks for making Locked On Pacers your first listen today and every single day. This episode is brought to you by BetterHelp, the world's largest therapy service. BetterHelp has matched 3 million people with professionally licensed and vetted therapists, available 100% online. Learn more and save 10% off your first month at BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA. Let's start with the big one. Tyrese Haliburton and Bennedict Mathurin, the two guys for the Pacers this season and beyond. There will be a lot of other guys who are good in the mix, but those are the two that are stealing headlines, and they've played a lot together. In fact, they have played 200 minutes together. Tyrese Haliburton's only played 209 minutes without Bennedict Mathurin. Mathurin's only played 137 minutes without Haliburton. So basically, they're playing more together than without, a 9-minute variance on that not being the case in Haliburton's case. So they're playing a ton of time together. And the Pacers need to be prioritizing that. That's very key with both of those guys on the court. Pacers have a plus 2.52 net rating. They have not only been good, they have felt well together. They have looked good together. They've outscored the other team by 13 points in that time. They still look good with just one or the other, right? With just Haliburton, they look pretty good. With just Mathurin, they look pretty good. With neither, it's only been 29 minutes. The numbers don't matter at all, but just some standout stuff from the duo, because when you have a plus 2.5 net rating, when you're outscoring your opponents with a rookie guard and a third-year guard on the floor at the same time, and look really good in the process, unstoppable at times offensively with those two on the floor, you got to figure out what you're doing well. Well, one thing is generating awesome shots from three, right? They're taking almost 50% of their shots as three-pointers, a little over 47% three-point attempt rate. And when you have good shooters like Mathurin and Haliburton, that makes a lot of sense. And the other guys who make sense with them in the front court, Turner and Smith, can both shoot pretty well. Even though Smith hasn't been awesome this year, he's still a threat. But he yields often with them on the wings. Duarte early in the season, Nesmith. It's easy to get good three-point looks with those guys, not only because they're both good shooters, but because the guys that make sense to pair with them on the Pacers team are also both good shooters. Another standout stat is usage rates with this group. I know it's kind of strange, but they've got really good balance, right? Because they have so many threats from everywhere. 25% usage from Haliburton when he shares the floor with Mathurin. Mathurin in those same instances, about 21%. Turner and Smith are the next two highest guys at about 22%. And the team shot quality, because they have such a balanced attack, because those two guys pair so well together. Fantastic. 54% expected effective field goal percentage with that group out there. That's all really good, right? So the pairing by the numbers, especially on offense, has been pretty good. Surprisingly, defensive rating, or unsurprisingly, defensive rating not so hot, 116.86 with both of those guys out there, giving up a lot of twos, a lot of shots at the rim. You know, they're not the best defensive duo at all, but they can easily overcome it with their strong offense. So two things have worked with this group, and we'll dig into what has made this pairing so successful by looking at the lineups around Bennedict Mathurin and Tyrese Haliburton. And this is where I really learned a lot diving into these numbers, and I hope you will too. So the best lineups with actual minutes, like I'm not talking 2 minutes net rating lineups. I'm talking serious minute groups that have played with Haliburton and with Mathurin. The best lineups, especially on offense, involve, of course, those two guys with Hield, Jackson, and Jalen Smith. Why is that group so solid? Well, look, just think about the skills you have with that group. Obviously, Isaiah Jackson, terrific defender, can switch, can block shots, but that is a very heavy offensive group and a very good shooting group. In fact, if you were putting together a group around Haliburton and Mathurin, and you said, give me the most offense I can around those two guys, I'm guessing that'd be pretty close to what most of you would come up with. Maybe you have Turner in there instead of Jackson, but I understand why you'd want the vertical spacing threat with some of your best passers, but that's pretty close to what you'd end up with. And that group, great shooting group, right? Well over 40% from deep and on deep, probably certainly below average on defense. But because it's on the extreme end of good offense, they overcome it, and they've been really good so far. Now, the second best group with serious minutes alongside Haliburton and Mathurin features the following three players: T.J. McConnell, O'Shea Brissett, Isaiah Jackson. That is the opposite idea, the extreme opposite, right? Tyrese Haliburton, for all the great things he does, shaky defender. Bennedict Mathurin, pretty nosy, talented on-ball defender, still is a rookie, still learning the ropes of team defense at times, right? But the other three guys in that group, Jackson's a wonderful defender, especially for his age. McConnell's a good defender as a vet. Brissett's a good team defender. It's mostly good on-ball defender, can be shaky at times. They're surrounding them with a defensive group. Obviously, if you had to describe the best defensive group around those two, again, it'd be like Turner, Jackson, and either Duarte or Nembhard or something, but that's a defensive group, and it's worked. So surrounding those two guys with either a fully offensive unit or a fully defensive unit, the extremes, has been good. Balance is fine. It's helpful. And I think as the two players get better, balance will end up being the better thing. But right now, going on one of the extremes makes sense. And you can even look at the flip side to talk about that a little more. The worst groups alongside Haliburton and Mathurin, the absolute worst one, Nembhard, Hield, and Turner, right? A little bit of mixture of offense and defense. It seems like it should work. That's a talented group. Nembhard's been really surprising. But it doesn't have a lot of perimeter defense. They're relying a lot on Nembhard there, and they don't have enough offensive punch besides Hield in that unit to make it work. Another poor one has been Smith, Hield, and Turner, right? Same kind of deal. So they play so fast with those two. Ridiculous, 13.5 seconds per possession. Their offense is going to be good. You surround them with offensive talents, it's going to work, right? They get to the rim all the time. They do all this good stuff. So because those two guys can fit with so many guys around them, especially offensively, and they run so fast, and the Pacers are young and in shape, like all this stuff, surrounding them with heavy offense works, but also overcoming them with strong defense also has worked, right? Shots at the rim or shots from 3, 76% of the time. Their offense is going to work no matter who it is. So surrounding them with heavy defense also has been successful. So what did I learn from this exercise and what can be taken away from this? If Haliburton and Mathurin are together, eventually as they grow and they too become more balanced, right? Haliburton gets a little better getting all the way to the rim. Mathurin adds a little more on offense as a playmaker. But as those things happen and they become more refined players, you can get more balance in with them on both ends of the floor, especially as they grow on defense as well. But right now, given that they're both mega talented offensive guys, super great creators, especially scorers for themselves, but also in Haliburton's case, maybe the best passer or distributor. I wouldn't say best passer, but one of the best distributors in the league right now. Surrounding them with extremely talented offensive trios or extremely talented defensive trios seems to really be working for this Pacers team. And I continue to wonder how they can explore that. And one way they have recently, right, is that Turner-Jackson pairing. We'll talk about that in the last segment. That group has barely played, but that duo is one way to do that. It's one way to add some spunk, right? They've been getting Nembhard in at the 3 now because he can provide a defensive spunk in a way that other guys can't. They've been pairing McConnell and Haliburton, which sometimes looks weird to me, but it works. The numbers say that it adds value to this duo specifically, because McConnell can defend, right? Going on the extremes has really worked with this group. The numbers say it, the talent says it, the eye test says it, and that's something that I think they'll have to explore as the season goes on is, can they go with more balanced units, and does that allow them to play the other team to an even draw, or do they just go really heavy on offense and try to outscore the team, or really heavy on defense and try to defend enough that those two can just score enough? Because it is working, and as they get better at other skills, more balance will be better. But right now, I think it's very fascinating to see how those groups have developed. Next duos I want to talk about, the best ones for the Pacers team this year. What did net ratings say has been the best duos for the Pacers this season? And one player was in 3 of the 4 top Pacers duos, and I bet you can't guess who it is. Let's talk about some Pacer duos. But first, guys, let me talk to you about SweatBlock, a product I use almost every day because their deodorant is the best. Their sweat wipes are fantastic. You can tell by my build if you're watching on YouTube. I sweat a lot. It's not hot in India anymore, so less so than I used to, but I sweat a lot. It became a problem. I was wearing lots of undershirts. Now I don't have to deal with that as much because SweatBlock's products are the best. A lot of people with embarrassing sweat have said, according to the reviews of SweatBlock, that it's been great for them. Try it yourself. SweatBlock wipes were invented by a doctor. They're guaranteed to work, or you don't pay at all. It's a SweatBlock, dry shirt guarantee. If it doesn't keep you dry, you get your money back. If you or someone you love is experiencing embarrassing sweat or odor, try SweatBlock risk-free today. You can save 20% when you check out with them with the promo code LOCKEDON at sweatblock.com. Also available on Amazon. Go check them out. Highly recommend. Let me also talk to you guys about RocketMoney. If it's impossible for you to cancel your Amazon Prime subscription or a bunch of other random things that you didn't even realize you're paying for and it's almost impossible to get rid of, RocketMoney, formerly known as Truebill, is your place to go. Do you know how much your subscriptions really cost? Most Americans think they spend about $80 a month on subscriptions, when the actual total is closer to $200 or more per month. That's right. You could be wasting hundreds of dollars each month on subscriptions you don't even know about. RocketMoney can help you with all that, and it'll take care of all that for you. It used to be called Truebill. Now it's RocketMoney. Cancel unnecessary subscriptions with RocketMoney today. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon. It'll save you hundreds of dollars per year. The app will show you all your subscriptions in one place. It'll cancel what you don't want for you. And even find stuff you didn't even know you were paying for. You might even find out you've been double charged. You don't want any of that. So go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. Get it done. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. Welcome back into Locked On Pacers. Thanks for making us your first listen today and every single day. For your second listen, check out Locked On Hornets, the Pacers' opponent, tomorrow night. See what's going on in Buzz City. Lots to talk about with that fun team. LaMelo Ball is back. Let's dive into more lineups for the Pacers. I've got numbers galore and duos galore. This time we're looking at the absolute best duos, not just the one featuring the two promising young players. If you go NBA.com, you can sort 2-man lineups, 3-man lineups, 4-man lineups by net rating. I cut them down to ones with more than certain numbers of minutes because I hate the ones that have low minutes and crazy net ratings, except for the third segment when we're going to talk about one with almost no minutes. But anyway, the best Pacers duo with more than 100 minutes is Isaiah Jackson and Bennedict Mathurin. That is the best duo, plus 9.4 net rating at over 100 minutes. That's very good. At 50 minutes, the best duo is Andrew Nembhard and Chris Duarte at plus 19.4 net rating. But if you use that 100-minute threshold, which I am using to get a good sample size, the three best are Jackson Mathurin, Jackson and Buddy Hield, and Jackson and Tyrese Haliburton. Yes, that's right. Isaiah Jackson is the master of the duos this season. They're all huge pluses no matter who he's with. Good stuff happens. So is Ijax just that dude? Is he him, as people say on the internet these days? Well, yeah, he's obviously very good. They're playing him more recently. He's added something to his offensive game. He hit a between-the-legs jumper the other day. Like, he can jump out of the gym. Obviously, everybody knows why he's good. But him being in so many good duos was surprising to me. I thought Haliburton would be the guy at the top of a lot of these duos. I thought Turner and Mathurin would be in the mix. But Jackson ruled the day in this. So why? Well, let's go look at his on-offs to dive into the big reason why. The Pacers' offensive rating with Isaiah Jackson in is 120. Without him, it's 112.9. That's an 8-point difference. Their defensive rating is 113.8 with him in. It's 116 with him out. The Pacers, so a little bit of flukiness because the Pacers are shooting 44% from three with him in the game, but their defense's numbers look pretty normal. So I was quick to say, I see that 3-point percentage. And that makes me go, there's a little luck involved. And I think that is true. 44% is insane. But at the same time, this is something Isaiah Jackson does well, and will be very relevant to our third segment today, talking about him again. Vertical spacing is something that's talked about a lot in the NBA. It's something the Pacers haven't really had for a while until this year. But what it does is, if you're the center guarding Isaiah Jackson and you have two assignments, you have to tag the roller and get out to a shooter, or you have to help on the weak side, whatever you're doing, you know, sometimes on guys who aren't really lob threats, if you know the guy's behind you and you can recover to a pass, you're done. But if the pass can go above you, that's a third element you have to defend. You kind of got to change your angles on ways you defend. And in that way, his space, it's almost like the opposite of what Buddy Hield does, for example. Like some guys will hold Buddy Hield's jersey, not always, but sometimes, to prevent him from getting open from three. On the flip side of that, Isaiah Jackson, being this vertical spacer, forces guys to squeeze in a little more, so the lob might not be open, and opens the three. He doesn't have that much gravity yet. I think he will going forward, but he has some, right? And so I do think he opens up threes to a little bit of an extent, because there's a third element where passes can go now. It's not just around the perimeter or hitting cutters. It's up in the air, right? So that element does certainly help, but 44% is insane. Either way, vertical spacing is hard to defend, and that's why I think he's got this huge positive impact on offense. And oh, by the way, dunking the ball is a very high percentage shot, and Isaiah Jackson happens to dunk the ball all the time. So he can be paired with a lot of guys. And because what he does, well, recently he's added a little more, but because what he does a lot of the time on offense is catch dunk, like anyone can be a part of the other four players and have that be good on offense. Obviously, his defensive impact needs no introduction, like can switch, can block, just can do everything. So it makes sense why he's in all these duos. It just wasn't the answer I specifically expected. But jumping out of the gym all these ways is really important, and providing that vertical spacing is absolutely massive. So I get why he provides the boost there. But now looking at what other groups work really well, Jackson plus Brissett has been really good, and Jackson plus Mathurin lineups have been good, right? So there is some defense there. There is some offense there. But in general, he fits with everybody. The best group with Jackson is Smith, Haliburton, Hield, Duarte. Again, like I said in the opening duo, talking about Haliburton and Mathurin, generally, if you surround guys with shooters, things will go well. And if Haliburton's one of those shooters, things will also go well. But that group perhaps perfectly displays what Isaiah Jackson's vertical spacing can do. Like if Haliburton can throw the ball over the top or to any open shooter, and you're, a 4-man who has to rotate from the weak side, or a 5-man who's a step out of the play, it's like something's open. Some pass to someone is open, especially if Haliburton has the ball and can see it. He makes the shooting a little easier with that group. That's why it's been so good, and why he can make all these duos be elevated, because he adds a different element on offense. And Turner's becoming a little bit better at this stuff too, which is part of why he's been so effective this season. Now, that 50 minutes or more group did really surprise me. Nembhard and Duarte being so strong, but that is maybe their two best perimeter defenders. Nesmith's in that mix as well. That's why I say maybe. I'll quibble with a few other guys like TJ McConnell in that mix as well. Those two have size. I'm not making a list, but those two are two of their best perimeter defenders, and that's been really helpful. Like having those two guys out there, that's something that stands out, is the defensive rating is pretty good. 110.7 with both Nembhard and Duarte out there. That's the Pacers' defensive rating. That'd be about 8th in the NBA for a whole team over a full season. Obviously, that's not sustainable for the Pacers. They can't play them forever. But two of your best, going just to wing defenders, not perimeter defenders, two of your best 3 wing defenders, yeah, it's no surprise the Pacers' defense is good with that duo. The offense has been buoyed by some certainly hot shooting, like when they're both in the game. Pacers at 45% from 3, but also horrible 43% from 2. If those balance a little bit, who knows how much of an impact on their offensive rating it would have, because their offensive rating is insane. But their defense has been good and giving up kind of hot numbers. Like they've been getting stops and turnovers with that group. And so I think those two, that is something worth exploring as well, and worth considering blending with the first thing we talked about with the two young guards. But hold on, before we talk about that, the other combo that's worked well with Nembhard plus Duarte, the full lineup is McConnell and any bigs, AKA, how do I think about that? Defense groups. You got a ton of perimeter defense, and you got big men who can do stuff. So yeah, that's tricky without Haliburton, Hield, or Mathurin, but they can stop guys, and that is something that the Pacers typically don't have in a lineup, but those groups have been working. But blending the concepts of what you talk about, thinking about Duarte and Nembhard, right? Those two can be a defensive lineup. So if you're trying to maximize Haliburton plus Mathurin, and you have these two perimeter or wing defenders that can kind of work, why not throw out a Haliburton, Mathurin, Duarte, Nembhard, and Turner lineup? There you go. All of a sudden you have all this defense on the floor, and going to one of the extremes has worked really well with the two young guards. That might be something worth exploring, but I get why you might choose to go with more balance and let those guys work through the middle, as has worked for a lot of the season. But I would like to see that group for some time, see if it does make sense, given what the skill sets and numbers say about those players, or what we learned about Isaiah Jackson, going the opposite direction. Haliburton, Mathurin, Hield, Smith, Jackson, all the shooting plus the vertical spacing, and see where that goes. That seems like it would totally work, especially because Smith has taken steps forward on the defensive end. So there's lots of options, but I thought it was noteworthy that, 1, the numbers say that Haliburton and Mathurin together has been good, and 2, the best lineups with a lot of minutes fit with those two players. So lots of interesting numbers that suggest there is some synergy about what the Pacers have sort of built this year and stuff that can be helpful in building their team in the future. Now, the big massive caveat is we're talking about a 12-game sample size, but you can learn a lot about these numbers, the fits of these players, and who maybe does and doesn't belong with certain guys, right? So moving on, though, there is a new pairing the Pacers are exploring that I would really like to talk about. I think it's so interesting. I've asked both players involved about it, and that is Myles Turner and Isaiah Jackson. Caitlin Cooper wrote a beautiful piece about those two together. Check it out on Indy Cornrows. Let's talk about what's made that duo so good. Before we do that, though, let me talk to you guys about PrizePicks Daily Fantasy Made Easy. You think Luka Doncic will score more than his projections on PrizePicks, or LeBron's going to have less than his rebound projection, or KD, who scored 1 million points this year, is going to go over his scoring number? That's how PrizePicks works. Their format is super simple and super fun, and you're going against a computer, not a bunch of other people, which makes it way more fun to me. You pick 2 to 5 players on the app, and if they will go score more or less than their PrizePicks projection, whether that's in points or rebounds or assists or whatever, you can win up to 10 times your money on any entry. It's not you versus other people. It's just you versus the projections available. They offer projections on any sport you watch: NBA, NFL, MLB, NHL, PGA, all the college sports, a bunch of other stuff too. You got to check it out. You can make your picks in 60 seconds or less. Super easy. It's safe. They've got fast withdrawals, and it's operational in over 30 states and Canada. Download the PrizePicks app or go to prizepicks.com. Sign up today and play daily fantasy sports. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100. With the promo code LOCKEDON, you put in 50, they give you 50. You put in 100, they give you 100. You get the idea. Don't forget that you got to use the promo code LOCKEDON to get it. Sign up for an instant deposit match up to $100 because PrizePicks is daily fantasy made easy. Welcome back into Locked On Pacers. Thanks for making us your first listen today and every single day. For your second listen, please check out Locked On Sports Today. From the games that matter to the most important and biggest stories in sports, go beyond the scoreboard and behind the scenes with local experts and insights only the Locked On Podcast Network can provide. Locked On Sports Today, available on whatever app you're listening right now, YouTube, Odyssey, wherever you get podcasts. Go check it out today. Peter Burkowski doing a great job with that show. This last segment is for me and my interests, but it's also a fantastically interesting duo, Myles Turner and Isaiah Jackson. They definitely do not have enough minutes together to qualify as meriting a ton of discussion. In fact, they have played 8 minutes. 8 minutes. Their numbers are hilarious. Their offensive and defensive rating are both above 135. Those mean nothing to me. It's been 8 minutes. What I'm about to talk about is more theoretical than actual numbers. And I've asked both of these guys about it because the only 2 games these two have played in together were against New Orleans, which was last week, and against Denver, which was last week. Like, piecing it together, it's perhaps something the Pacers are exploring now. More recently, the lineups they needed against Toronto required a little more pace on the perimeter to not get so gucked up. I get why they didn't go to it then, but it would not surprise me to see this a little bit against Houston or against Charlotte this week. So I asked Myles about this group, right? They've only been outscored by 1 point. Ignore the net rating crap. With 8 minutes, it doesn't matter. But so it's basically been an even group for 8 minutes. Myles said defensively, this is a quote, defensively, I think Isaiah is capable of guarding the perimeter. We're both elite shot blockers. Defensively, it helps us a lot, right? He conceptually understands that these two can fit together defensively, as does everyone, right? I think that is where these two obviously thrive the most, is that they can patrol the paint and block shots. Myles can switch out to about 15 feet. Isaiah can switch out to about anywhere on defense. So conceptually, that's like the ideal modern big pairing on the defensive end. They will definitely struggle with like your brute force interior players, from Montrezl Harrell's talent level to Joel Embiid. Yeah, those guys will kick their butts. But in general, against a lot of modern NBA teams, that pairing makes a lot of sense defensively. I also asked Isaiah Jackson about this group, and he said, I feel like it puts Myles in a position where he can shoot the ball, and he says they can help each other on defense and rebound. He said, quote, I just love playing with him. That first part was the big one to me, though. I feel like it puts Myles in a position where he can shoot the ball. Let's go back a segment, right? Isaiah Jackson provides all this vertical spacing and opens up the floor for other guys. Turner, a little bit more at the 4 playing with Jackson, but you have this dynamic role threat who scares dudes. And all of a sudden you've got some cross-matching issues where the other team has to decide if they want to put their big on the lob threat or the shooter and how they want him to move around and be chasing guys. Like, that is tricky to defend. It makes Turner's shots easier. And look, Turner, it's 8 minutes. This is not why. But Turner is shooting better from three so far this year at 37%. Like, in theory, that makes sense, right? That he can add to Myles' game by making it easier for him to shoot the ball while he's the guy around the basket collecting the lobs. So conceptually, this group just makes sense to me, right? Really nasty paint protection, which is so important. This is not related to the Pacers, but I just watched Hawks-Bucks tonight, and the Hawks beat the Bucks. The Hawks are the only team this whole season that have beaten the Bucks when Giannis played, because Clint Capella is just holding down the paint. There's a lot more to it, but that's a big part of it. Nasty paint protection can help you win a lot of games, and Isaiah Jackson plus Myles Turner together can do that. And to make it a Pacers stat, in 8 minutes of time, the Pacers have given up 4 shots at the rim in total with those two guys on the floor together. You got to find another way to beat them, right? They're both switchy. Jackson is more so, but they both are. In a productive way, they can cover ground in general. They're just two mobile defenders. That's good. And the other one I've already mentioned, but it's a combo of already referenced notes. Isaiah Jackson makes threes a little bit easier for everybody else because everybody's got to think about the lob come behind him. Myles can shoot. He's at 37% this year. That'll probably go down a little bit, but who knows to what extent in his new role. In tandem, it's a tricky cross match, and it's two guys who are good at finishing plays in those positions with the creators the Pacers have had this year. That seems like it should work, right? Someone's got to guard something hard. They've got to guard two bigs, and two people might end up being overmatched. So in general, the duo seems good. They played against New Orleans with, Valanciunas, who has to not be, he's not athletic or quick, right? Can he defend the lob? Can he run out to the line? They've got to decide what is the pill the Pelicans want to use with him there. The Denver Nuggets also had to deal with it. Jokic and non-Jokic lineups. DeAndre Jordan fits the bill as well, though, right? He's not athletic anymore. Can he get the lob? Can he chase the shooter, right? Either way, it's tricky for the defensive team, and that's what makes this so effective. It's got some versatility, and it can defend like crazy. So, yeah, it's been 8 minutes. I don't know how much we'll see it going forward because you play the Raptors, who have a million 6'9" guys who can kind of defend lobs and kind of defend the perimeter. It's harder to use that group, but I will be curious if Rick can turn to it in more situations. Rick Carlisle can turn to it in more situations going forward because it does make a lot of sense conceptually, talent-wise, as a good duo that could work in theory. Could be awesome. That's why I like that they're playing together. I'll throw out the numbers until they hit at least 20 minutes, probably much. I mean, if you're a stats guy who just heard that, you're laughing your butt off. Like, you're probably thinking it's got to be 500 minutes or something, but 8 minutes is a joke. But just thinking about their actual skills this season and how it's actually worked for those 8 minutes, it seems like something the Pacers could explore and have success with. Hope you guys enjoyed this show. I really wanted to dig into duos and haven't had a chance to do it yet, but today felt like a great day because I had some extra time between games, and it really worked out that way. Maybe I'll do trios or quartets. There we go. I forgot the word on a future episode, but that will be months away when there's gaps in the schedule. Tomorrow, Spencer Percy's going to join us from the Buzzbeat Pod. Love those guys covering the Hornets to talk Pacers Hornets. And third segment, we'll see. Lots of stuff. Maybe something will come up in practice. I still got to figure out why James Johnson missed that game with a back injury. So you'll, of course, learn something on Locked On Pacers tomorrow about the Hornets and the Pacers. You won't want to miss that. But thank you guys for listening today, especially if you made it to the end. Much appreciated. Have a great rest of your day. We will see you tomorrow.